No one wants to feel unloved, yet the way most of us lack love is when it comes to loving ourselves. And what I've learned is that we cannot love others well unless we love ourselves well. And when we lack self love or self worth, or we lack self esteem, it shows up as scarcity in our lives, in our finances. We tend to stay in jobs that we really don't like because we don't think we deserve better. We tend to have trouble in our personal relationships. We tend to lack trust. So here in this video, I want to talk about 7 signs that you may not love yourself. And I know this is a touchy subject because who wants to think they don't love themselves? Before we get started, my name is Tawana T. I'm an author of a book called Paint Yourself Beautiful. I am a nurse of 28 years. I have 2 beautiful daughters, and I'm a self-love coach. So let's get started. Number one of the ways that you lack self-love is that you apologize for everything, and you tend to take blame for most of the things that happen, and you assume that everything is your fault. So let's be clear. I'm not talking about taking responsibility and being accountable for the things that are your fault. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking 100% of the blame and not allowing other parties to be accountable as well. And that can be in your personal relationships, in your work relationships, and also in your romantic relationships. What that tends to do is it doesn't allow other people the opportunity to grow if they're just sitting back and you're holding all of the blame and trying to fix it. And that also sets up unhealthy patterns in relationships because now you're always the scapegoat. So this is something that I want you to try. When things happen, take a step back and look at the situation objectively and think, okay, what part is what did I do and what could I have done different? And also allow the other parties to be responsible for the part that they contributed as well. I know this used to be really difficult for me because I would avoid conflict. I would, even if I saw someone doing something and I knew it wasn't always my fault, I wouldn't speak up and say anything. And that didn't allow the other person involved to grow in that situation. And what I had to realize is I had to ask myself, well, why won't you say anything? What is preventing you from speaking up for yourself? That was where I started getting my true answers from. So I want you to try that.
Another
Another
sign
that
that
you may be lacking self love is that you put everyone else's needs before your own. You procrastinate to go to the doctor. You procrastinate to go to the gym. You procrastinate about eating a healthy meal. Everyone else is a priority in your life except for you. And then when it comes to doing things for yourself, you have excuses as to why you can't do them. What I want you to do is start scheduling yourself in. You must be a priority in your life. If you don't take care of you, who's going to take care of you? If you don't make sure that you get proper rest, proper nutrition, if going to the doctor, you will burn out. So, what I had to learn how to do, because at one point I had 2 jobs, I was taking care of my family, and I really just didn't have time for myself. But on my off days, I would tend to overextend myself to do things for other people. And I ended up in a hospital because I kept putting off symptoms, and I ended up with a really bad kidney infection and was in the hospital for a week. Had I just stopped and said, okay, Tawana, you need to go to the doctor. You need to make sure you drink plenty of water. You need to rest. Then I probably wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. But that was a time in my life where everybody else was important and I just wasn't to myself. But that's changed now. Another sign that you may not be loving yourself enough is when you put other people before you. You go out of your way to make other people happy. And you go out of your way for other people. You're switching around your schedule. You're calling off from work just because they want you to be there. Knowing you can't be there. You are spending money you don't have. You are running errands that you don't have time to run. You go completely out of your way and you make sure that everybody is okay and you show up for everyone, even at an inconvenience to yourself. And this sort of people pleasing can be very unhealthy because what it does is you neglecting your own needs, wants, and desires so that everyone else is happy. You're stuck wondering and trying to figure out how to pay bills because you spent too much money, but you were there. I was there. I was turning up. And now you're trying to figure it out. Sound familiar? Or you don't have time to do the things that are really important to you. And then you find yourself saying things like, I'm there for everyone else. No matter who calls me, I show up. No matter what anyone asks me to do, I do it. But when I need something, nobody's here for me. Yeah. Why do you do it? Do you really do it because it makes you happy? Or do you do it because it makes them happy? I want you to ask yourself that. So, a task I want you to think about, or something I want you to do, is dream big. Do the things that truly make you happy. Because when people love themselves, they don't waste their life and their time doing what everybody else wants them to do because they value themselves and they value their time and they feel that they are worthy to get the things out of life that they feel that they deserve. Another sign that you may not be loving yourself enough is that it's hard for you to make critical decisions. You don't tend to trust yourself. You don't trust your intuition. You don't trust your own compass. So whenever there's a decision to be made, it's kind of like you shop it around. Like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think I should do? And you find it difficult to pull the trigger on, especially important decisions. Even, I mean, I'm not talking about just seeking advice. I mean, sometimes we need a second opinion. Sometimes we may need to say, hey, I'm having a really tough time making this decision, and I really wanted to talk to you about it. Not that, it's most things. And another way you could tell if you're probably having some indecisiveness is even big or small, you kind of mull it over for days, or and you kind of don't know what to do, and you're afraid to make an error, and then if something does happen, what you tend to think is it was all bad versus, well, it's not so bad. It was a hiccup, like everything is an avalanche. Another sign that you may not be loving yourself enough is that you are critical and very harsh with yourself, and you put yourself down. You say things to yourself like, I knew you couldn't do it. I don't even know why you tried. You'll never be as good as such and such. I always mess things up. I can never get it right. oh my goodness, I wish I was just as pretty as this person. Oh my God, they have such a great job. I'll never have a great job like that. You do it without even noticing that you do it. There is this constant focus on your failures and shortcomings. And you never notice your accomplishments because you're in this constant battle of comparing yourself with other people and seeing where you don't measure up. So then you feel bad because now you don't feel good enough. So it's this constant berating of you in your head. And it's not just going on in your head. When somebody says something about you, how do you take that? Are you able to take a compliment? Or if someone says, hey, that's a really nice shirt, you say, oh, this old thing, yeah, I picked it up out of the garage. Or if they say, oh my goodness, your skin is so beautiful. Oh my God, I have such horrible skin. I'm surprised that you're just being nice. Do you find yourself doing things like that? So, how you talk to you, about you, and as well as how you talk about you in conversation gives a lot of insight on where you are when it comes to how you view yourself. I want you to do something. It's a task. It'll take you a week to do, but it'll be worth it. I want you to get a little notebook and write out for a week every negative thing you say to yourself, every negative or toxic thing that you say to you, either silently in your head or even out loud. And I want you to write down what you say about yourself to other people. Even if it's a joke, I want you to do it. And at the end of the week, I want you to look at that and see all the toxic and negative things that you have been saying to you and about you, because it's important for you to see it, because thoughts, continuous thoughts, become beliefs, and your beliefs become your mindset, and your mindset will determine if you're living a life of love and abundance, or if you're living a life of scarcity and fear. And that all deals with, are you speaking life into you, or are you speaking death into you? Another sign that you may not be loving yourself enough is that you need constant approval and validation. Because you don't feel good enough, you seek approval and validation from other people, excuse me, from other people, other places, and things. You're constantly comparing yourself and using that as a gauge to see if you feel good enough. So your standard is based upon who is doing what and where you are in comparison to that. So I must be okay if I'm here and they're there. Or you're constantly judging other people and looking at what they have because you're constantly judging yourself and looking at what you have, what you're doing, where you're going. It's just this perpetual cycle. And this leads to people pleasing, and that is a very unhealthy habit to have. And a lot of times you get taken advantage of when you are doing things just to please other people, and it's not necessarily for yourself. Um, People who tend to people please and who are seeking constant validation are usually perfectionists. You may see this person without a hair out of place. They're dressed to the nine. They look all like they're put together always, but inside it's this constant criticism they have to do better, to be better. and they really get frozen because they're afraid to do something because they might make a mistake, or they are in a situation and won't speak up for themselves because what if you get upset with me? They are taking their cues from everything around them on how to act, which leads into my last sign of uh, that you may not be loving yourself enough, and that is you wear a mask in your own life. It's like you're hiding in your life and just being who everyone else wants you to be in order for you to feel love. You hide your emotions, you hide your vulnerabilities. So, really, the person that is being introduced to everyone when you lack self love is truly a representative. And I know, when some of my girlfriends and I, when we would date, or, they say, who'd you meet? They sent their representative. People walk around in their lives every day being a representative, or as I would say, an actor in their own lives. They are so afraid of living their truth because they don't feel good enough as they are. So everything and everyone around them is what they use, kind of like as props, so they can feel good about themselves. Self love is one of those really touchy subjects. I mean, you even broach the subject and insinuate that someone, you know, may have some self love issues. People tend to get offended because no one wants to believe anything is wrong. We all want to believe that I'm doing right, I'm doing okay. And sometimes just something so personal, but so important. It's unfortunate that it can't be talked about as open as other things. But the last sign that we're going to talk about that you may not love yourself enough is that you hide your true self from others because you fear rejection and you are constantly worried about being judged. You tend to act differently to make up for it. So you're hiding your emotions and your vulnerabilities. So to some people around you, you may seem fine and everything may seem okay, but it's only an act because you don't want to be rejected because you truly don't feel like people will like the real you. So what tends to happen is when you go into different groups of people, those different groups may meet a totally different person. It's like you don't have a set standard that you have adopted and that you live by. It's like you're blowing in the wind because you want to be liked so bad that, and you don't feel that you're good enough or that you are worthy of meaningful relationships and friendships, that you hide the true essence of you. So it's like you're an actor in your own life. You may see that you have um, problems in relationships because you go into a situation and you are everything that this person may want. And you may want to try to do that. And so you may try to tell yourself that, oh, it's not a big deal when something has been a big deal. And you get into a relationship and then they may say, oh, you're changing. And it may not be that you're changing. It may have been that you hid who you were because you wanted to be acceptable and you wanted to be liked. So I know self-love is such a touchy subject for a lot of people. I mean, who wants to think that they haven't been treating themselves the best? None of us want to think that. But what I am learning is that a lot of us don't even realize we're doing it. And depending on how we were raised and where we come from, it may seem normal. So I challenge you to take a really good, honest look at yourself and see if you fall into any of these categories. There's also a self-love quiz in the links in the bio. See how you fare. And if you want to book a discovery call with me, just all of my information. Thank you for watching my YouTube video. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube video, welcome. And I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so when I upload a video, you'll be the first to know. If I said anything in this video that resonates with you, drop me a comment below. I love to see